We've known for ages that cadmium and lead are really, really bad ideas. Just look at Van Gogh. Every now and again, we get a new study, most recently from George W. University in the States, just been released, which basically shows that over 30 to 40% of mass market confectionery chocolate bars have got cadmium and lead in them. Okay, so we've got 4 questions to try and address this and make you feel a bit more comfortable. The first is, should we be worried? Yes, the answer is you should be worried. You don't want to get lead poisoning. It's very toxic. You don't want to get cadmium poisoning. It's really, really nasty. The next question is, okay, so how does cadmium and lead get into chocolate? The answer is different depending on whether it's lead or whether it's cadmium. If it's cadmium, basically cadmium gets into lots of different vegetables, including chocolate, when it's in the soil and it gets sucked up and it gets passed down into the seeds. What happens with lead is that basically it's the way that the chocolate gets processed. So for example, one of the classic ways that lead can get into chocolate is that if, for example, in West Africa, where the beans are being dried on the roadside, you want to be careful because if lots of diesel lorries are going past, they're going to pick up lead from that. Similarly, if you store in a room which has got lots of lead paint in it, again, that can be a problem. So the next question is, how do you avoid it in chocolate? The answer is, go for craft chocolate. Just look at, for example, the Consumer Reports study. They show that Taza, one of the great craft chocolate makers, started back in the 2000s. They don't have any problems with it. Similarly, beans from Coca Camille, which Mast are using, again, have been shown not to have that. But the fundamental lesson here is that if you're transparent about where you're sourcing your beans from, you're not going to have the same degree of problem when you just can't track it back and figure out where the problem's coming from. The third thing is, what else can you do to avoid it? One of the strange things is, what you should be doing is actually just savoring your chocolate at the end of a meal. Not too much, and at the end of the meal, because basically other foods which are in your gut will slow down, if there were to be any lead in your chocolate or cadmium in your chocolate, and slow it down and possibly even wash it out. So savor, don't have too much. But also just because you don't want to have an empty stomach when you're eating this stuff. And then the final question is this being overhyped? Why is chocolate being ganged up on? And this is an interesting question, because actually, if you look at where people are getting cadmium and lead in their diets, the US has done a lot of work on this. It's not where you think it is. It's not in chocolate. It's actually coming from vegetables which we're often told to eat, like spinach, like kale, like romaine lettuce, like arugula. And again, no one's saying you should give that up. Same thing with chocolate. One last point, the arguments that you should switch from dark chocolate to milk chocolate and white chocolate are just clearly bonkers. What you should be doing is thinking about how to eat healthily. Switching to a product which has got tons more sugar in it, when if it's a craft chocolate anyhow, it's not going to have lead or cadmium in any degree, which you have to worry about, is just a bonkers idea. There is no doubt that lead and cadmium are definitely things you want to avoid. You don't want to get lead poisoning, you don't want to get cadmium poisoning. But if you're going to have any chocolate, have some craft chocolate, because we know how it's been sourced. It's been shown to have none of the worrying levels of lead and cadmium that you get in some other mass mainstream brands, and savor it at the end of a meal. So yes, you should be worried, but no, you don't need to give up your craft chocolate